Hi, and welcome to Historical Influence. Here, we explore amazing stories of people and events that shaped our history. Join us to learn, discover, and get inspired by the past in a fun and engaging way.
Imagine a man so powerful that his name became a title for kings and emperors for centuries to come. Julius Caesar, a brilliant general, a cunning politician, and a man whose ambition changed the Roman world forever. But how did he rise to such heights? And why did it all end with 23 stab wounds on the Ides of March?
The Roman Republic began its expansion shortly after its founding in the 6th century BC, initially within the Italian peninsula and then beyond it starting in the 3rd century BC. Even before it had an emperor, Rome was already a great power, or an empire. The Republic was not a modern nation-state, but rather a network of towns with varying levels of independence and provinces managed by military commanders. It was governed by annually elected magistrates, such as consuls, who worked with the Senate. The 1st century BC was a period marked by significant political and military turmoil, which ultimately set the stage for the rule of emperors. This era saw a series of internal conflicts and civil wars as Rome expanded its power. A key event was in 44 BC, when Julius Caesar, after being made perpetual dictator, was assassinated by a group opposing his consolidation of power. Following Caesar's death, his adopted son Octavian and Mark Antony defeated the assassins at the Battle of Philippi in 42 BC and divided the Roman world between themselves. However, their alliance was short-lived, culminating in the Battle of Actium in 31 BC, where Octavian's forces defeated those of Antony and Cleopatra. This victory led to a pivotal moment in 27 BC, when the Senate granted Octavian the title Augustus, or venerated, and made him princeps, or foremost, which marked the beginning of the Principate, the first phase of the Roman Empire. While the Republic officially continued to exist, Augustus held all real authority. His 40-year rule established a new constitutional framework, ensuring that upon his death, he would be succeeded by a new monarch, Tiberius, solidifying the transition from republic to empire. The term emperor itself originates from the honorary title imperator, commander, which was often given to successful generals and was consistently bestowed upon the early emperors. Gaius Julius Caesar was born into a patrician family, the gens Julia, on 12 or 13 July 100 BC. The family claimed to have immigrated to Rome from Alba Longa during the 7th century BC after the third king of Rome, Tullus Hostilius, took and destroyed their city. The family also claimed descent from Julius, the son of Aeneas and founder of Alba Longa. Given that Aeneas was a son of Venus, this made the clan divine. This genealogy had not yet taken its final form by the 1st century, but the clan's claimed descent from Venus was well established in public consciousness. There is no evidence that Caesar himself was born by caesarean section. Such operations entailed the death of the mother, but Caesar's mother lived for decades after his birth, and no ancient sources record any difficulty with the birth. Despite their ancient pedigree, the Julii Caesares were not especially politically influential during the Middle Republic. The first person known to have had the cognomen Caesar was a praetor in 208 BC during the Second Punic War. The family's first consul was in 157 BC, though their political fortunes had recovered in the early 1st century, producing 2 consuls in 91 and 90 BC. Caesar's homonymous father was moderately successful politically. He married Aurelia, a member of the politically influential Aurelii Cottae, producing, along with Caesar, 2 daughters. buoyed by his own marriage and the marriage of his sister to the extremely influential Gaius Marius. He also served on the Saturninian Land Commission in 103 BC and was elected praetor sometime between 92 and 85 BC. He served as proconsular governor of Asia for 2 years, likely 91 to 90 BC. Caesar's father did not seek a consulship during the domination of Lucius Cornelius Cinna and instead chose retirement. During Cinna's dominance, Caesar was named as Flamen Dialis, a priest of Jupiter, which led to his marriage to Cinna's daughter, Cornelia. The religious taboos of the priesthood would have forced Caesar to forego a political career. The appointment, one of the highest non-political honors, indicates that there were few expectations of a major career for Caesar. In early 84 BC, Caesar's father died suddenly. After Sulla's victory in the Civil War, 82 BC, Cinna's acta were annulled. Sulla consequently ordered Caesar to abdicate and divorce Cinna's daughter. Caesar refused, implicitly questioning the legitimacy of Sulla's annulment. Sulla may have put Caesar on the proscription lists, though scholars are mixed. Caesar then went into hiding before his relatives and contacts among the Vestal virgins were able to intercede on his behalf. They then reached a compromise, where Caesar would resign his priesthood but keep his wife and chattels. Sulla's alleged remark he saw in Caesar many Mariuses is apocryphal. Bust from the imperial period of a man, in this case Augustus, wearing the civic crown, Latin corona civica. Caesar won the civic crown for his bravery at the siege of Mytilene in 81 BC. Caesar then left Italy to serve in the staff of the governor of Asia, Marcus Minucius Thermus. While there, he traveled to Bithynia to collect naval reinforcements and stayed some time as a guest of the king Nicomedes IV, though later invective connected Caesar to a homosexual relation with the monarch. He then served at the siege of Mytilene, where he won the civic crown for saving the life of a fellow citizen in battle. The privileges of the crown, the Senate was supposed to stand on an entrance's owner, and holders were permitted to wear the crown at public occasions, whetted Caesar's appetite for honors. After the capture of Mytilene, Caesar transferred to the staff of Publius Servilius Vatia in Cilicia, before learning of Sulla's death in 78 BC and returning home immediately. He was alleged to have wanted to join in on the consul Lepidus's revolt that year, but this is likely literary embellishment of Caesar's desire for tyranny from a young age. Afterward, Caesar attacked some of the Sullan aristocracy in the courts, but was unsuccessful in his attempted prosecution of Gnaeus Cornelius Dolabella in 77 BC, who had recently returned from a proconsulship in Macedonia. Going after a less well-connected senator, he was successful the next year in prosecuting Gaius Antonius Hybrida, later consul in 63 BC, for profiteering from the proscriptions, but was forestalled when a tribune interceded on Antonius's behalf. After these oratorical attempts, Caesar left Rome for Rhodes, seeking the tutelage. While absent from Rome in 73 BC, Caesar was co-opted into the Pontificales in place of his deceased relative Gaius Aurelius Cotta. The promotion marked him as a well-accepted member of the aristocracy with great future prospects in his political career. Caesar decided to return shortly thereafter, and on his return was elected one of the military tribunes for 71 BC. There is no evidence that Caesar served in war, even though the war on Spartacus was ongoing during his term. He did, however, agitate for the removal of Sulla's disabilities on the plebeian tribunate and for those who supported Lepidus's revolt to be pardoned. These advocacies were common and uncontroversial. The next year, 70 BC, Pompey and Crassus were consuls and brought legislation restoring the plebeian tribunate's rights. One of the tribunes, with Caesar supporting, then brought legislation pardoning the Lepidan exiles. For his quaestorship in 69 BC, Caesar was allotted to serve under Gaius Antistius Vetus in Hispania Ulterior. His election also gave him a lifetime seat in the Senate. However, before he left, his aunt Julia, the widow of Marius, died, and soon afterwards his wife Cornelia died shortly after bearing his only legitimate child, Julia. He gave eulogies for both at public funerals. During Julius' funeral, Caesar displayed the images of his aunt's husband Marius, whose memory had been suppressed after Sulla's victory in the Civil War. Some of the Sullan nobles, including Quintus Lutatius Catullus, who had suffered under the Marian regime, objected, but by this point depictions of husbands in aristocratic women's funerary processions was common. Contra Plutarch, Caesar's action here was likely in keeping with a political trend for reconciliation and normalization rather than a display of renewed factionalism. Caesar quickly remarried, taking the hand of Sulla's granddaughter Pompeia. For much of this period, Caesar was one of Pompey's supporters. Caesar joined with Pompey in the late 70s to support restoration of tribunician rights. His support for the law recalling the Lepidan exiles may have been related to the same tribune's bill to grant lands to Pompey's veterans. Caesar also supported the Lex Gabinia in 67 BC, granting Pompey an extraordinary command against piracy in the Mediterranean, and also supported the Lex Manilia in 66 BC to reassign the Third Mithridatic War from its then commander Lucullus to Pompey. Denarius of C. Cossutius Meridianus, 44 BC, with the head of Julius Caesar as Pontifex Maximus on the obverse. The legend on the reverse mentions AAAFFF. 4 years after his aunt Julia's funeral, in 65 BC, Caesar served as curule ideal and staged lavish games that won him further attention and popular support. He also restored the trophies won by Marius and taken down by Sulla over Jugurtha and the Cimbri. According to Plutarch's narrative, the trophies were restored overnight to the applause and tears of joy of the onlookers. However, any sudden and secret restoration of this sort would not have been possible. Architects, restorers, and other workmen would have had to been hired and paid for, nor would it have been likely that the work could have been done in a single night. It is more likely that Caesar was merely restoring his family's public monuments, consistent with standard aristocratic practice and the virtue of pietas. And, over objections from Catullus, these actions were broadly supported by the Senate. In 63 BC, Caesar stood for the praetorship and also for the post of Pontifex Maximus, who is the head of the College of Pontiffs and the highest-ranking state religious official. In the pontifical election before the tribes, Caesar faced two influential senators, Quintus Lutatius Catullus and Publius Servilius Isauricus. Caesar came out victorious. Many scholars have expressed astonishment that Caesar's candidacy was taken seriously, but this was not without historical precedent. Ancient sources allege that Caesar paid huge bribes or was shamelessly ingratiating. That no charge was ever laid alleging this implies that bribery alone is insufficient to explain his victory. If bribes or other monies were needed, they may have been underwritten by Pompey, whom Caesar at this time supported and who opposed Catullus's candidacy. Many sources also assert that Caesar supported the land reform proposals brought that year by plebeian tribune Publius Servilius Rullus. However, there are no ancient sources so attesting. Caesar also engaged in a collateral manner in the trial of Gaius Rabirius by one of the plebeian tribunes, Titus Libanius, for the murder of Saturninus in accordance with the Senatus Consultum Ultimum some 40 years earlier. The most famous event of the year was the Catilinary conspiracy. While some of Caesar's enemies, including Catullus, allege that he participated in the conspiracy, the chance that he was a participant is extremely small.
The Ides of March is the day on the Roman calendar marked as the Ides, roughly the midpoint of a month, of Martius, corresponding to 15 March on the Gregorian calendar. It was marked by several major religious observances. In 44 BC, it became notorious as the date of the assassination of Julius Caesar, which made the Ides of March a turning point in Roman history. The Romans did not number each day of a month from the first to the last day. Instead, they counted back from 3 fixed points of the month: the nones, the 5th or 7th, 8 days before the Ides; the Ides, the 13th for most months, but the 15th in March, May, July, and October; and the calends, 1st of the following month. Originally, the Ides were supposed to be determined by the full moon, reflecting the lunar origin of the Roman calendar. Martius, March, was the first month of the Roman year until as late as the mid-2nd century BC, an order reflected in the numerical names of the months of September, the 7th month, through December, the 10th month, not corresponding to their current position on the Gregorian calendar. In the earliest Roman calendar, the Ides of March would have been the first full moon of the new year. As a fixed point in the month, the Ides accumulated functions set to occur every month and was the day when debt payments and rents were due.
In the months leading up to his death, Julius Caesar's actions fueled fears that he intended to become a monarch, undermining the Roman Republic. In January 44 BC, attempts to name him Rex were stopped by 2 tribunes. Caesar responded by deposing the tribunes and removing them from the Senate, an act which angered the public, who saw the tribunes as protectors of their freedom. This move was particularly damaging as Caesar had initially justified the civil war as a measure to protect the tribunes. Shortly after, he assumed the title of dictator for life, ending any hope that his extraordinary powers were temporary and making it clear that a free republic could not be restored while he was in power. Public sentiment continued to turn against Caesar despite some of his gestures. During the Lupercalia festival in February, he publicly refused a diadem offered by Mark Antony. However, this did little to quell the rumors that he sought a crown, especially since he was already wearing the attire of a monarch. Popular indignation was also likely fueled by his policies, which included favoring lenders in debt disputes, using lethal force against protesters, reducing the grain dole, and abolishing open elections, which deprives citizens of their traditional rights. There were even reports that the public wrote in the names of the deposed tribunes on ballots during Caesar's prearranged elections. The conspiracy to assassinate Caesar began as early as the summer of 45 BC and involved around 60 people by February 44 BC. The plot united former enemies, bringing together both staunch Caesarians and former Pompeians. The leaders included prominent figures like Gaius Trebonius, Decimus Brutus, Cassius, and Brutus himself. Many of the conspirators were likely dismayed by Caesar's sham elections, which predetermined results for years in advance, denying them the opportunity to earn political office through genuine popular support. Brutus, who claimed descent from the legendary founder of the Republic, emerged as the main leader of the conspiracy. He was influenced by a growing public perception of Caesar as a tyrant, as well as by philosophical traditions that emphasized a duty to free the state from tyranny. Despite some news of the plot leaking, Caesar dismissed warnings and refused a bodyguard. The conspirators chose the Ides of March, March 15th, for the assassination, as it was the date of the last Senate meeting before Caesar was due to depart for a military campaign against Parthia. This location was chosen to frame the act as a political one, and it offered the advantage that only the conspirators would be armed inside the Senate meeting. On that day, they approached Caesar on his golden chair near the statue of his former rival, Pompey, and attacked him with daggers. He was stabbed at least 23 times and died immediately. His last words are uncertain, with some accounts claiming he died in silence, and others reporting he said, "Kai, su, teknon," which means, "You too, child," upon seeing Brutus among his attackers. In Roman society, taking the passive role in sexual activity was seen as a sign of submission and inferiority, regardless of gender. This societal view was exploited by Roman politicians who used sexual accusations as a popular form of slander to humiliate and discredit their opponents during the Roman Republic. Several prominent figures were targeted with such accusations. Julius Caesar faced persistent rumors about an alleged affair with King Nicomedes IV of Bithynia early in his career. His political enemies, including Cicero and Bibulus, frequently repeated these stories, mockingly calling him the Queen of Bithynia. The pervasiveness of this rumor is highlighted by a song his own soldiers reportedly sang during his Gallic triumph. Caesar may have conquered the Gauls, but Nicomedes conquered Caesar. Caesar repeatedly denied these accusations throughout his life, even under oath on one occasion. The poet Catullus also wrote a poem suggesting Caesar and his engineer Mamurra were lovers, though he later apologized for it. Octavian, who would later become the first Roman Emperor Augustus, was also a victim of such political slander. Mark Antony accused Octavian of having earned his adoption by Caesar through sexual favors. The historian Suetonius described Antony's accusation as a form of political slander.
From military genius to dictator, from hero to victim of betrayal, Julius Caesar's story is one of ambition, power, and tragedy. His life reminds us how fragile republics can be when ambition clashes with fear. What do you think? Was Caesar a savior of Rome or its destroyer? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more journeys into history.